We started to run away from him, but he was still faster than us. He caught up with us one by one, tearing us to pieces.
Hi all. Today I will tell you a terrible and interesting story of mine. My name is Steve. I was one of the many who worked at the factory. Around the summer of 2008, I was a young guy, educated. With my diploma in hand, I went right away to apply for a job. I was accepted without any problems. The first week I did pretty good, even though I didn't like it. I made friends with a man. His name was Auburn. He liked soccer, like everyone else. He seemed like an ordinary guy, but there was something that made him stand out from the crowd. Namely his love for mysticism, which was surprising for such an ordinary man like him. Sometimes he liked to tell spooky stories, even though I didn't like horror stories very much. But he even managed to scare me. I couldn't get away from his stories for a long time, but I liked him. One time we were working with metal, but Auburn was acting weird. He was quiet and even ignored my questions about how he was feeling. After his shift, walking next to him, I saw his downcast stare. I blocked his path and grabbed him by the shoulders and asked him what was wrong. But he looked at me with glassy or even faded eyes, which he looked away. I did not understand what was the matter. But I did not get an answer from him, even when we approached his house. He kept walking with his head down when I got to his house. I wanted to call him, but I decided I shouldn't. And it's probably better for him to be alone to calm down, I thought to myself. As a result, the next day, he wasn't at work. I tried to call him a few times, but he would not pick up the phone. Then I dialed again and heard a creaking sound in the phone. I heard a non-human laughter on the phone. It was so loud and hoarse, I was horrified at that moment. I didn't know if he was playing with me or not. One of the supervisors called me over, saying I'd go to work. I worked for a couple of hours doing the same job. Then during lunch, at the table, I saw Auburn being discussed. And I remember very well what they were saying about him disappearing. I felt bad about what had happened. So I called a cab after work and drove to his house. I got out the car and paid the driver. I went inside. There's his door open. He probably wants me to come in. The end result was that what I saw inside made me freeze on the spot. Auburn had been hanged and his belly had been opened with someone's knife. His guts were on the floor. I vomited from behind my mouth, and my eyes went black as if someone had hit me. Suddenly I woke up in my own bed, and I realized it was a dream. It was a day off and I didn't have to go back to work. So was it a dream or not? I thought about it, but I didn't have a definite answer. The weekend flew by unnoticeably for me. I had time to visit my mother. When I went back to work, I began to notice that the light was going off during production. Because of that, there were a lot of industrial accidents. This one, the siren went off, and I realized that someone must have been injured at work. But suddenly it went off 2 seconds later. My colleagues and I were terrified. There were bodies all over the shop. We began to run away from the factory as best we could, when suddenly, there appeared a terrible creature that had the outlines of a face like Auburn's, It had pale skin, black eye sockets, and razor-sharp teeth. We started to run from it, but it was still faster than us. He caught up with us one by one, tearing us to pieces. Running away from him, I stumbled suddenly. I fell on my stomach and turned to face him. Watching the last thing I see in my life. At least I thought I did. Seeing his face, I recognized him as Auburn. But it was too late. He swung his arm and then I woke up in prison, where I was supposed to stay for 30 years, but after a year I was released. As it turned out later, I was accused of mass murder, but no evidence was found. So he let me live, I thought. After that I stopped working in the factories. Who knows if that thing will come to you and tear you apart when you are standing at the machine.
If you liked the story, please subscribe and like. Till tomorrow.